So in the beginning, which is nowhere because there was never a beginning, but in the beginning, there is just pure aliveness. But that's a weird word because that implies deadness as the opposite. So we kind of think of movement maybe as aliveness or something, or something being alive. You could maybe say beingness, but then again, what's that something being? It's all bizarre words. And there's two sides to this beingness, but there's not really two sides because it's all one, but we're going to just say there's two sides to this being. It's nothing, it's just potential energy or nothing at all, and it explodes into form and creates form. But this form is still nothing. This form is still nothingness, oneness, or that same potential energy that exploded, or even maybe it's not even potential energy, maybe it's a word before that. It explodes into potential energy and forms have begun. I remember hearing this joke once about in the beginning there was nothing, and then God said, "Let there be light," and there was still nothing, but you could just see it. You know, that was a good one. But incredibly hard to talk about because you can't sit in any word. So you're like, duck, 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 jumping and dancing around. So this is nothingness, and it's not really that beingness is in the middle. That's a load of nonsense, but that's how we're going to explain it today. That's how it's coming out. There's this beingness, and then there's this everythingness. And the beingness, you can say, is everything. Everything is being. But the backside of being is emptiness. Okay, so we start with beingness now. We've done that. We're on to beingness. Explained what beingness is perfectly clearly. Now we're at beingness. So there's this beingness, this aliveness. And in this aliveness, it creates a body. Or it's a little bit more complicated than that, but we'll just start that it's created a body. It's created many things before, but we'll just get to the body. So there's this human body that comes to life. So a baby is born, and there is this beingness which is expressing itself as a baby's body. This beautiful baby's body. And there's no sense of I in the baby's body. There's just pure beingness, pure aliveness. The baby has no sense of inside, outside, right, wrong, good, bad, cot, baby, mum, baby. There's just pure beingness, pure aliveness, and everything is happening in that aliveness. And in order for the baby's body to experience, there has to be other objects. In order for the baby to exist, there needs to be a world that exists, a world full of things. So the baby cannot experience without a world full of other things, without the cot, without the air, without the light, without the room or whatever, without the environment, the baby cannot experience. But it's not the baby experiencing. The body of the baby is used for the beingness to experience. It's not the baby really experiencing, but we'll call it the baby. Beingness has created the body in order to experience the world. So it's created a brain, and the brain, I assume, although I'm making this up and I'm not a scientist, I don't know where I know this from. You could say everything or nothing. But the baby's brain produces awareness, so awareness of other objects, but the other objects are also awareness. In order for there to be awareness, there needs to be other objects, otherwise there would be nothing again. So these all things are happening at the same time. So awareness and the other objects come at the same time. So in the brain, awareness is formed, and then there's other objects perceived through the baby's body. Then after a few years, or maybe after a few months, a mild form of thinking begins. And then thinking is another experience in beingness. So originally there's beingness, so there's nothing, beingness, the baby's body, and with the baby's body the whole of the world comes alive, and with the awareness the whole world comes alive. But nothing is separate from the baby's body, that everything else is needed for the baby's body to experience. It can't just be a baby's body. Everything else comes with the baby's body and with the awareness of the baby's body, or with the awareness that's in the baby's body. So awareness isn't the source of things. Awareness is a functioning in order to experience. How are we going there? Yeah? Everyone's getting this? Great. Okay, we just carry on then. Just take a bit of coffee. Then it will become even more clear. Okay. Then more things begin to appear in the baby as the baby's body grows in a world which is not separate from the baby. They're all dependent on each other and are the same thing, the same energy. But the baby's body is being used as the portal to experience. But in order to experience, there has to be objects to experience. So one and the same thing, experiencing and the experienced. Okay. So the baby's body begins to develop more things that it can do. So our thoughts begin to come in. The name gets put onto the baby, so the body is a John. And the body begins to have the sense that when it cries, milk comes. Or hug comes. It begins to do this and begins to feel the body, and then it begins to suss out that it can't feel the cot. It's so cute when you do it, and then so they're beginning to suss out the environment. I've never had a baby, so again this is all made up, but it's all made up from everything or nothing, so that's okay. Not Lisa. And then they begin to suss out an edge to the body, and the edge to the feeling of the body, and the edge to other things, and what is we would call inside or outside. But the thinking's not that complicated yet. More and more thinking is created. So so they learn about pleasure, crying, and the pleasure comes, the milk comes. They begin to perceive a name of some sort. And then eventually this energy comes in where, with all this stimuli of feeling the body and all this thinking and the brain activity, they begin to get a sense of, okay, I am the body. That is who I am. And they don't think it, it's an energy that comes in. And they start feeling like they are something separate from the world. But it's not a really logical thing, it's more of an energetic expression. Suddenly it's the energy is inside the body, a baby in relationship with the world. And then thoughts begin, and all these thoughts are influenced by the environment. So they're taught things like what good and bad is. They're taught to be a good boy, so he's called John, he's taught to be a good boy. And sometimes he's taught to be a bad boy, just they think they're teaching him to be a good boy, but they're validating him when he does naughty things. So he begins to get this idea of good and bad, and this is a really important one. What's good to do and what's bad to do. And he gets taught this word choice, that he's got a choice to be good or bad. So these thoughts begin to run. I've got to choose well. If I choose well, I get a sweet, or I get the milk. If I choose correctly, I get pleasure. If I choose incorrectly, I get pain. And this develops even more as the baby begins to get older. And the whole time the baby is, what's happening is the energy is focusing on the thoughts and the stories and on the sensation of the baby. It's begun to believe that that is just who it is, just the baby. So then it begins to be taught, it goes to school and it begins to be taught how to relate to others. And the others are separate and other names, and it's beginning to be taught that it gets pleasure if it's successful intellectually, if it's successful at school. And this is a gradual thing, and it's not an outside world teaching it, it's just like kaleidoscope. It's just one thing moving to another. It's just energy moving round and round. But this is just the kaleidoscope of a baby. It's just the outside and the inside. There's no outside and inside. It's just a flow of energy moving that way. And the flow of energy is to identify. That's the thing that happens in the child, is to identify with the body. So, so then it gets taught that human love is pleasure. So human love, to get love from others, to get approval from others, is to do good things, or sometimes bad things. It's taught to do bad things and think that that will get its love, depending on the conditioning of the parents and the genetic makeup of the parents. So it gets more and more these ideas about where it can get love from. And it begins to learn that pleasure is love and pleasure is out there to obtain. But it's a really gentle movement of energy. It's like most probably like a chemical reaction happening in the brain. More and more energy goes into this looking for love in the world. And it begins to come more and more solid who you are. And it's amazing to watch kids grow their self if you've got kids. I was with a 10-year-old kid in the summer. And he's beginning to make up reasons to why things happen and why people do things. And it's like sometimes really off, and you look and you're like, okay. Like he makes up these stories about why people have done things, or why they own certain things, or why they, and they're really weird stories. I don't know where he's got them from, but they just seem to have formed. And then he sees the world through those stories. That is like that because they are like that. And it's amazing to watch these, and they really want to be someone. They really want to be and explore being someone. It's exciting for them to be someone. And they get more and more interested in what they look like, in what others think of them. What else do they get interested in? In what, basically, what interests them is getting approval. Because that love and that pleasure gives a high, gives a chemical reaction of highness. It gives a really beautiful feeling. So more and more, the body-mind mechanism is taught to look into the future and to look to the world for its happiness. So it looks in this world of things for its happiness and for its love and for its pleasure. And what a dance it begins to play. And as a teenager, or a younger teenager, this can be really exciting. But then it also can become really scary, because the ability to imagine the positive things, to get love in the positive things, is also the ability to imagine losing it in all those things. So the opposite imagination can appear. And this activity of the brain, which I presume it's the brain producing all these thoughts, but I don't know, it could be the heart, who knows? It could be the toes. It could be nothing, it's ultimately nothing. But there's an activity happening where there's a looking for love. And this energy gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And sometimes, already now, it seems like quite young teenagers are feeling uncomfortable with their life. They feel this burning sense of not good enough, that they can't do enough things, or they can't imagine how to be good enough, how to be loved. Or they feel it's impossible to get that love in the world of things. And it's even like I've had calls from 10-year-old or 13-year-olds, young people now are beginning to come unsatisfied quicker. And there's the television at the moment which influence this. We get taught, when I was growing up, the big thing was these romantic comedies. It was always about finding the love. I think we've moved on more now to films. It all seems to be like machine guns and not so, some romantic comedies, but mainly a lot of adventure or action films. And so whenever there's uncomfortableness in the body, the imagination begins to imagine the next way to get love, the next way to get that pleasure. And this whole false world is grown, this whole false reality, and these made up stories about why things happen, this limited look on reality. This happened because of, and it names three events as to why this happened, but really this happened because of everything that's ever happened. You can't separate out anything. And it's okay to communicate, oh, I ate all the chocolate because I was hungry. I mean, it's okay to communicate, but really it goes back forever. You ate chocolate because of forever, because of everything that ever happened. Or nothing that ever happened, whichever way you want to put it. And the human begins to get limited perspective. So it gets a limited perspective in thought, and it believes that this is true. It doesn't even believe it's true, it's just true. These thought systems, he's an asshole, that's just true. They did that to me because they don't respect me enough. It's just true. And the rest of society tells you, yes, he did that because he doesn't respect you enough. And that's just true. And we can even go, that's just, well, most of the human population, but it'll be different in different cultures. Like in Islamic culture, there'll be different reasons as to why things, compared to Christian culture, but they'll all have reasons as to why things have happened. And you get stuck in, particularly in relationships where this sense of wanting love is sparked a lot, you get stuck in this thought pattern of, he didn't give me enough attention because he's scared of women or something. And that because we're so conditioned now by psychology, that's like, that feels, yeah, okay, yeah, that's true, yeah, I can see that he's scared. But that is such a limited perspective. That's a very limited psychological idea. And so then we look to all his fears. Well, when he was younger, his mother, or I can't think of all the stories. His mother, didn't give him enough attention, and his dad was a really scary father figure. And that, there's a limited way we can communicate about the past, but it's not why he's treating you unrespectfully. He's not even treating you unrespectfully. That is a false illusion anyway. Nobody can treat you unrespectfully. You can only perceive that they treat you unrespectfully. Hot work, isn't it? All this hot air coming out of me. So we begin to, but we really believe they're true, and then this whole argument starts. You say to your partner, "You're treating me like that because you don't respect me because you're scared of your father," and then the other one's like, "How dare you? You treat me like that because your mother did that to you as a kid." I mean, like, we have these insane arguments about words that we've made up anyway, and that we've associated with certain things in a very limited perspective. We've forgotten everything else. There was a movement of everything. And we could talk lightly about things, but there's never an actuality to anything that's said or thought. And you are never ever going to find what you're really looking for in telling your partner or convincing your partner of anything. I don't know why we're talking about partners. Or the partners in the room are like... It's just coming out. Oh yeah. Hello. We can see you. Yeah. And you're never gonna find peace in convincing them that they've got problems or issues. You're never gonna find peace in convincing them that they need to love you more, or they need to give you more attention. And you can be so sneaky about this because the mind can be so great in convincing itself and the other that, yeah, I know ultimately it won't make any difference, but, relatively, you will just never find anything there. The only freedom is is this. It's always like this. This is the only home. This is the only love. Everything will be lost. Like you'll get them to treat you nicely for 10 minutes and then it'll be like, actually, that's too much attention now. You're too over the top. Back off. But the mind's so great the way it dances. And it tends not to notice that 10 minutes ago it said it wanted more attention and now it's like, no, back off, back off. And those loops will never give freedom. The body, yes, can say, do the washing up or do this, but there's no hope to find peace there. Something else will happen. The house will just suddenly fall down. You'll be like, oh, okay. Now we've got no house. Or you'll suddenly get $1 million and then it's a whole different experience. You'll never ever find it in the flow. They even say that they did an experiment and people that have been given huge amount of money end up becoming incredibly depressed. It's just never what you think. So this is your freedom. So back to that baby story, all this nonsense that I've gone through, back to that baby story. At the very beginning, there was this beingness, and that beingness has stayed through this whole dance. This whole dance. It's always been there. It's everything, and it's nothing. And that is your love. I mean, isn't that the most beautiful message? It's not my message. It's just the way it is. The most beautiful message that we could be is that your nature, what you always thought was right here, was you. And it's not actually in the baby. The baby and the whole world are that beingness. It's just the baby is used to experience the world. The baby is just a form used to experience it all. But that beingness is actually everything. It's looking from that baby's perspective. So it's not just beingness in here, it's everything and everywhere and everything that's ever happened. And I can say all these words and I can dance around them and they're not quite right, but this is known. It's always that same beingness, no matter what comes and goes. And that is the love that you seek. Your nature, which is not a body thing, but it was there even before the baby's body was born, but it has to view the world through a body. Well, maybe it doesn't. But in this one, it has to view the world through a body. In that dream, or whatever you call it, it's always that beingness where the body has got a chopped off leg, can't hear, can't see, has got all the money in the world, all the pleasure in the world, the same beingness. And it's absolute love. And it's not what you imagine, it's what you are. The mind will constantly go into, it's what you are. It's right here, everywhere. And this speaking that's happening now is a result of everything, or, if you prefer the more negative, nothing. That looking there is a result of everything that's ever happened and ever going to happen, which is nothing. You never speak because you want to speak, because you choose to speak. You speak because of everything. They never do something because they chose to do something. They speak because of everything. It's taken everything for this. If we think of the Big Bang, I mean, that's just our made-up story, but everything. And then it comes out. If you've watched Lucy, that amazing scene at the end, where it all goes back into the Big Bang. You go out, I think, first. You go out into the whole universe first, and then back into the Big Bang, and then suddenly, nothing, it all disappears. It's amazing. And this here is a result of everything, which has never happened. Nothing. But it's here, the everything. And this speaking is not the truth, because this speaking that's coming out, like everything, is only, how do you say that? It's only, it's like, this speaking is limited to the, I can't say it. Because this is a movement of everything, this speaking is only a part of the movement. That's really hard to say. Can you sense that? It's like, and then eventually a new speaker will come, and then there'll be a pushing into a new way of speaking, because that all of, can't say it. I can feel it. It's like, the best way I could describe it is like with art. So you know how a great piece of art is relative to everything that came before. So if you've had somebody doing like, is he called Moe? No, well actually he's different. But you know how like Suzanne, it was suddenly like so different what he did. It was so beautiful what he did, and so different from everything that came before. Suddenly that was the famous piece of art, and that was what really worked for everybody. And then after time, if someone did a Suzanne again, that was not relevant anymore. It went on to new art. It moved on to a new painting that came about. So there's no great piece of art. It's always relative to everything else that's happened. And that's the same when you speak about non-duality. So you'll never ever find the truth in non-duality. Like you can never find the right way of speaking about it. It's always relevant to everything else. So you can never speak truth, you can never find truth. But yet you are truth. You can never find it in these words, in anything. Well, that was an explosion for sure. I was on the coffee in the break.